Hello and welcome back to Integrative Guidance, where we are combining my 25 plus years as a psychotherapist with modern ancient healing arts. So we're bringing together tarot and numerology and all kinds of things we're going to explore here with modern psychology. So today we are talking about the pages. The pages are the first of the suit cards. And so we just finished up the tens, which is a culmination card, and now we're into pages. So pages can have two meanings. They can be messengers, they can bring news, or they can represent a young person, maybe an adolescent, or can represent a new beginning. So we culminated with the tens, and now we start a new beginning with the first of the suit cards in the pages. And so we want to be thinking about right now, when I really started to think about pages and messages and messengers, it really made me think about news cycles. And right now we are bombarded with messages on the daily, alerts and notifications. And it feels like on the regular, there's a new piece of information, a new bombshell, literally and figuratively, that hits us on the daily. How do we get through this? And how can pages help guide us through this period? So we're going to start with the Page of Swords. Just as a reminder, swords are connected to the element of air, and they're connected to our thoughts, they're connected to our cognition, they're connected to our attitude and how we think about things, because we do have choices about how we think about things, our perspective. They also can have rulership over the law. So the Page of Swords is about the Sun and Gemini, which is a mental air sign, right? So this is about reminding us to proceed with caution, that blades can be used for good and bad. It can be our intellectual armor, right? With this high-speed information that comes in, we need to use discernment and avoid debates and really look at data and make sure that that data is accurate, right? There's a lot of misinformation out there. And this particular card, we get that a little bit closer, right? We see clouds around, we see the figure looking off into the future, and it looks like they're using their sword, swinging it upward, right? So be careful how we use our sword. This is the Rider-Waite deck. In the Connolly deck, it looks quite different. Our page very much looks like an adolescent. They're a little more hesitant, they're a little more pensive, reminding us to take our time around how we access information. And are we doom scrolling? Is that causing us anxiety? And our coping skill really here is to set clear limits and expectations for ourselves and others. Really limit negativity. Sometimes we have to take a break from social media and scrolling and the news cycles and kind of pull back, because that air energy, if we're in our heads, if we're ruminating, if we're thinking and worrying, right, that can cause us to be more anxious, not less anxious. And so there's a lot of people recommending that as we go through this huge transformational period that we are going through right now, we've been talking a lot about that, right? Structures being torn down to be rebuilt, information being revealed. I know for myself, I was very naive about trusting the structures and what's being revealed about the corruption, the coercion within those structures, right? And really using our own discernment. So one of the ways that we can cope, connected to the wands, is looking at our birth sign, which is based on the time of year that we're born, and looking at the time of day we're born, or our ascendant, whatever planet is connected to that sign. So that's how we can connect with air, right? So for air, what's helpful is to write, to journal, to contemplate, and to imagine in a positive manner what we want our life and the world to look like on the other side of this transformation. So tune into that. So for example, I've shared before, I'm a Capricorn with a Cancer ascendant. So Capricorn is earth. For me, it's gardening, it's digging in the dirt. The water part for me is taking a bath that has nothing to do with hygiene. I'm relaxing, I'm soaking in the water, I'm taking in the vibration of the water. And so connecting to the element for you will help guide you on how to keep your vibration high. If you're a fire sign, it's connecting to spirit. Maybe you're laying in the sun, you're connecting with that fire, or sitting around a fire pit. Maybe you're meditating or praying, whatever works for you, self-hypnosis, it really doesn't matter. We talked about earth, again, gardening, digging in the dirt, maybe hiking, and water, swimming, bathing, focusing on your positive emotions, right? Our brain is wired to pay attention to what makes us scared and angry, because that's the primitive part of our brain, right? That's the lizard brain. That's the part of us that wants to survive. It takes work to pay attention to when we're in neutral, happy, joyful, and content. Pay attention to those positive emotions. So the next page that we're going to focus on is the Page of Wands. Again, this is a fire sign. Here's our Page of Wands, right? And here we have Saturn and Sagittarius, our lesson teachers and the places that we want to go. So remember, wands are positive growth and change. What areas of our life do we want to expand, right? Fire can be a call to action and activism. It can be new movement and inspiration. Or it can mean maybe that we're feeling burnt out. Fire can burn us out, right? However, when we feel burnt out, that can be a cue to us that it's time to change something, to move on in a more positive manner. So again, that was the Rider-Waite image. Here is the Conley deck image. So our figure has a pyramid in the background, is holding a pyramid, which is connected to inspiration, and we see the desert in the background. So this can be about things feeling sort of dried up or dried out. And we want to think about where we're putting our energy. Again, that observe, don't absorb, that non-judgmental observer, right? Using our creativity. Wands can be about creativity. If something feels dry and barren, where do we need to go to bring more fertility, more water, more opportunities for things to grow in our life? Okay, next messenger, next page is the Page of Cups. And remember, Cups is connected to emotions, which is connected to the moon and our intuition. And in this card, we see the moon, right? And remember, whatever planet is connected to your rising sign is your chart ruler. So again, for me, that's Cancer, and moon is the chart ruler, okay? So notice the fish in the cup. Sometimes we can feel like we're a fish out of water, and that makes us feel vulnerable in some ways, right? So remember, feeling connected, feeling vulnerable. Sometimes these news cycles overwhelm our emotions and we feel very overburdened and we feel very overwhelmed, or maybe we can over-identify sometimes. Are you taking on too much of the collective grief of what's going on? What do you own? What's yours? What are other people's things to own? And in the Conley deck, we see the figure more offering up with the cup, right? It looks like an offering. We see the fish, we see the water. Really pay attention to your intuition. Really pay attention to what your gut is trying to tell you. Coping here would be around having compassion and being compassionate with ourselves. Or maybe there's the new birth of something. Where is there something positive in your life that you want to birth or grow, right? We can feel very bombarded by these messages and news cycles and headlines. And we want to think about which page really resonates with us and for us. And the last page in the cycle is the Page of Pentacles. Remember, Pentacles are earth signs. So it's our health, it's our body, it's our stuff, it's our work, it's our money. And we want to be balanced when we think about these things, because we all need employment and we need money and we need the basic things. And this is reminding us, if we feel overburdened, right, by the news cycles around rising gas prices and rising healthcare prices and rising grocery prices, these things are real. What do we need versus what we want? So here's our Page of Pentacles. This one we have Mercury and we have Virgo. Okay, so in this image we have our page holding up the pentacle. So we want to focus on the lush field and what is available to us and what can we grow, right? This is about earth and structures. It's about finances. And we are in a huge time of transition around these things going on a social level. We get daily economic alerts, right, around all of these things, and we can fall into fear around survival. And the Conley deck, our page appears to be a little bit more in control of that pentacle. Again, we have the lush field in the bottom with the page with their foot on their book. And maybe the new beginning for them is around what they can control, what they can learn, right? So how might we maximize our resources, whether that's money or food, right? Maybe we grow our own herbs, simple to grow herbs. Maybe we grow some simple crops like cucumbers or pickles or tomatoes. If you really want to take it to the next level, and I will be making some videos about this, you can start to do some canning and jarring. In the next video, I'm going to take you all back into the garden. We did it around the 1st of April. Now it's the first week in May, and we'll look at how much the garden has grown and how things have changed. Here in the Northeast, April was very cold, very windy, very rainy. So it really delayed the growth of things, and May's been a little bit warmer, and things are starting to really pop. So one of the other coping skills that I wanted to offer to you all, because that is the goal of what we're doing here, integrating modern psychology and the ancient healing arts, is around a handout that I developed several years ago that I call the 5 questions to ask yourself when you have upsetting thoughts. If you want a copy of this handout, please reach out in the comments. You can email me at inguide321@gmail.com. This particular handout I get wonderful feedback from the folks that I work with. It is a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic behavior therapy, Jungian psychotherapy, and Zen Buddhism. And it comes out of some of the ideas of a woman named Byron Katie, got to give her credit, with something that she calls the work. It's a process that people find very helpful. She's written 3 books. Her personal story is very inspiring. And I am a very cut to the chase, get to the point, where are we going, this kind of person. And so I've pulled out of the generalities of her ideas these 5 questions that you can ask yourself when you have upsetting thoughts. And so I've created a handout for that. And so the first question you're going to ask yourself, if you have an upsetting thought or there's an upsetting event, right, is, do I know this to be 100% true? Okay? Come up with any thought that you can plug in that's upsetting to you, right? So maybe you're thinking gas prices are going to continue to go up and up and up, and before we know it, gas is going to cost $7 here in New England the way it is out in California, right? Do I know this to be 100% true? Yes or no? It cannot be partly true or mostly true. It has to be 100% true. If the answer is no, we're going to let go of that thought. If the answer is yes, we're going to drop down to number 5 and we'll get there. So let's take a minute and talk about letting go. We, in our vernacular, use all the time. Oh, he just needs to let go of that. You just need to let go of that. They just need to let go of that. Letting go is not something that's passive. It's something that's active. Letting go is active. And so if we have a difficult memory, thought, idea, fear that we recognize is not based in reality and doesn't serve us, when we let go of it, we want to attach an image to it. There's lots of research on this that comes out of the Mind Body Institute. I believe it's called the Herbert Benson Institute now, around using visualizations in our sensory system to help regulate our emotions. And so the imagery that I use when I have an upsetting thought, we all have them, or I reflect on an upsetting memory or event from the past, the image that I use is a leaf that floats down a babbling brook, and I just watch it until I can't see it anymore. I have clients that imagine a balloon that they let into the sky. I have a client that blows out a candle and watches the smoke fade away. I have a client that has a favorite river in New Hampshire and they sit on a rock and watch the white water go by. Whatever imagery resonates for you, again, this might be connected to an element for you, right? Whatever works for you. If you're an air sign or you have air very strong in your natal chart, maybe you're laying in a field and you're watching the clouds go by in the sky. Water signs might use water imagery. Fire signs might use that candle. Earth signs might use things connected to the earthly plane around maybe watching a bulldozer push the earth. Maybe it's watching the ocean move the sand. Maybe you see yourself scooping and placing sand in a pile. Again, whatever works for you. It's very individual. It doesn't really matter what it is, whatever works for you, right? So if you have a thought or a memory that you know is not 100% true and it keeps coming back, use that power of letting go. It'll come back. You'll let it go. What you'll find over time is that the frequency of that thought will get less frequent and the intensity will become much less on an emotional level. You got to practice it because that's how the brain works. Okay, question number 2. Is this thought from the past? When we go into the past and we tell ourselves and retell ourselves old stories of hurt, we are peeling the scab off a wound and we are choosing to rub salt in it. It's bad enough that that difficult, challenging thing happened to us. Every time we retell the story, we are choosing to relive that pain and hurt, right? Sometimes it's helpful to go into the past. We go into the past to learn, not to live. Is there a life lesson we can take that we can integrate into our life? Ooh, I got it. Not doing that again. Note to self, right? Or are we ruminating and going back over and over again to an upsetting event that only causes us hurt and pain? The only moment that's real is the one that we're in right now. Come back into the present. Integrate the life lesson. Don't go into the past. Number 3, is the thought from the future? Are we going into the future and worrying about something that's in the future that we have no control over, right? Come back into the moment. The only moment that's real is the one that we're in right now. Is there something we can do about the future? Is there a phone call we can make? Is there research we can do? Is there a contract we need to sign, right? Because when we worry about the future, that's called anticipatory anxiety or suffering in advance. It's 6 months from now. It's a year from now. I'm stuck in my fear and worry about this thing that's in the future that I have no control over. Come back into today, What can I do today? Number 4. Am I in someone else's business? Byron Katie would say there's 3 kinds of business. There's my business, there's your business, and there's God's business. Or fill in whatever works for you. The divine, source, the universe, whatever you believe in, a higher power, whatever framework works for you, right? There are a lot of people spending a lot of time caught up in shoulds and how other people should live their life, being in other people's business. They should do this, they shouldn't do this. People need to live their lives in a particular way. They should love certain people or not love certain people. They should eat certain foods or not eat certain foods. They should travel to certain places or not. There's all kinds of judgments about these things, right? When we spend our time in other people's business, what we're not looking at is ourselves. We're so busy judging everyone else that we're not looking at the areas of growth potential for ourselves. What this also doesn't do is consider other people's life lessons. If you have a neighbor who's stuck, or a friend or a colleague in a particular area of their life, and you're judging them negatively, maybe that's a life lesson they asked themselves to learn. We don't know what their life lesson is. I don't know what the life lessons are of people in other towns or other states or other countries or parts of the world. We're all here to learn life lessons. And when we judge others, we can observe. It's okay to observe difference. Maybe you observe a parenting difference. Maybe you observe a food difference. Maybe you observe a lifestyle difference. It's okay to observe and say, yeah, you know what, that might not work with me. It's very different from judging. Very different concept. So ask yourself, am I in someone else's business? Is that twisting me up? Is that frustrating me? Is that causing me upset? Come back into our own business. Okay? And lastly, this is a big one. Am I arguing with reality? We all do this. We all argue with reality. I've talked in the last video about the word should, right? Accept what is. Byron Katie says love what is, because inherent in everything that happens to us, there is a life lesson if we choose to take that life lesson. I think that's a lot to ask, to love what is. Accepting what is, I feel like, is more palatable. Everything in life falls into 2 buckets. The things we have control over and the things that we do not have control over. It's helpful to be reflective around which bucket things in life sit in, right? If it falls into the, oh, I do have control over this bucket, then we want to use the let's make a deal model. What's behind door number 1? What are the likely results? What's behind door number 2? What are the likely results? What's behind door number 3? What are the likely results? And we want to be proactive, not reactive. We want to slow down and think about the consequences of our choices. And even when we do this to the best of our ability, life sometimes will still bonk us in the head with a monkey wrench. Because life does that. And then we have a choice. We can boo-hoo about the egg on our head and poor me about the egg on our head. And sometimes we need a minute of that. That's okay. Don't get stuck there, right? Or we can pick up that monkey wrench and use it because it's a tool. What did I learn from this experience? Okay? That's the bucket of control. Then there's the bucket of, I have absolutely no control over this. I have no say. I have no power. I have no voice. I have no control over this situation. Right? That goes into the bucket of acceptance. It's the serenity prayer. I have to accept this. I have no control over it. What I do have control over is how I react and how I respond. Do I respond with resentment? Do I respond with anger? Or do I respond with, I have to accept what I can't control, right? And dialectic behavior therapy, there's a name for that. DBT, right? We call that radical acceptance. Sometimes it's quite radical, the things that we need to accept, right? Radical acceptance. I had a little plane glitch there for a minute because sometimes that happens. So radical acceptance, okay? And I've talked about this before, right? Wayne Dyer often talked about resentment. When we are resentful about other people or things in life, right? That is us choosing to drink the poison of resentment and expecting the other person or the situation to suffer. Typically, people are living their life, doing their thing, having a time, and we are stewing in resentment. The only person that suffers is us. Okay? So try to let that go. Active letting go, right? So pages can be young adolescent people. They can be people who behave in an adolescent manner. They sometimes do represent people if they come up for us, right? Oftentimes, though, they represent messages and they represent news. And so it seemed very much like what's going on a daily basis within these news cycles is to think about those messages and how we react and how we respond to them, and trying to connect with that highest vibration that we can as we go through these transformative times that seem to be changing on the daily in terms of the information that we get. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you to all the folks who are commenting. If you want to schedule a time to meet with me, please reach out through that email or comment in the comment sections. I will be making a video taking you out into the garden and the new beginnings of the budding garden. And we also will be moving on to the next card in the suits, which would be the Knight. So the Knight will be next. Okay, thank you so much. I so value all of you, and we'll meet again really soon.